Hello, and welcome to Off-Grid Burbia. In the last few weeks, we've been up to some major changes to the landscape here at our off-grid bourbon homestead. We're talking giant sunken hugel beds, a terrace garden, and an update to our living roof. To fully capture the transformation, we have to journey back in time to the year 2022. In February 2022, I had rented an excavator for the primary purpose of installing a septic system for our cabin. In that time frame, I was also watching David Pagan Butler's Natural Swing Pond documentary on a regular basis, almost daily. To get some practice with the excavator, I thought, why not dig a hole for a swing pond? I ended up with a roughly 10 foot by 20 foot by 6 foot deep pit, plus the ramp I'd cut in to make pit access easier. Fairly soon after, Gene and I installed a concrete footer on the bottom of the pit. That would be the foundation for the concrete block walls of the swing pond. Then it rained, filling up the pit with about 3 feet of water. Once it dried out, I figured I would return to the project. Meanwhile, I moved on to building the guest cottage and adding on to our cabin. Our interest in building and maintaining a swimming pond waned, and we eventually started throwing brush in the pit. Fast forward 4 years, I noticed that a 50-foot tall hackberry tree at the front of our property had died. So I thought, why not cut it down, put it in the pit, cover it over with soil, and plant trees on top of it. Then I thought, I need to rent a skid steer. And that's when the project creep began. All right, let's get lay of the land before we get started. You can see here is our overhead view of our property. This is our half-acre homestead. There is our cabin. I think this imagery is from 2022, so the cottage is not on here yet, but we'll see it in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the imagery for a moment. It's the outline here. I'm going to turn on some the elevation hill shade here. You can see pretty clearly there's the pit. So right there is sort of the front of the property. Those hackberry trees were over here. We'll see them in a moment. Let's turn the contours on. There's our contour map. You see we got a pretty good slope. We got about 15 feet, 785 to about 770 in the front. But this is fairly flat out here in front. And you can see that's kind of how the water flows out here too. There's a drainage area right over here. There's a culvert that runs underneath the road. So I thought this was pretty interesting. This is some LiDAR data that's new. This is the first time I've gotten it. You can pretty clearly see the building outline there of the cabin. Here is the cottage, which is, I think the living roof fools the LiDAR just a touch. It's kind of a weird shape there. I think that might actually be the deck it's pulling in. It might not even be getting the actual cottage itself. But anyways, all this green is our canopy. So we have loads of canopy. This canopy has been cleared now because we took out the 2 hackberry trees. You can see there's a hackberry tree right here and a hackberry tree right here. So this gets some really good now southern exposure. What's great about this is that it gets that eastern morning sun and it's blocked in the west in the afternoon. So, blocked from the west in the afternoon, which is great in Texas. So eventually I will like to plant an annual garden here. But for now, I'm just going to do this hugel bed, sunken hugel bed here, plant some fruit trees here, and probably plant some nitrogen builder cover crop here. Maybe I'm thinking cowpeas right now. Some other projects we're going to get onto is I'm going to build a terrace garden over here. You can see the canopy is pretty light, and I think I can do some selective clearing of the canopy to kind of open this up and give a partial shade terrace garden here. You probably use a mix of Texas natives and probably do some annual planting in there as well. And the last thing I'm planning to do is this cottage has a living roof, so I will, which I didn't quite finish out, but since I have the skid steer, I will finish putting soil on top of the living roof. So I guess let's get to it. Okay, so here's the hackberry tree been chopped up by the tree trimmers. I'm going to go ahead and further pull out some firewood pieces and then try to trim this down so that eventually I'll be able to pile this over with earth and just sort of make a big hugel bed here. Okay, so here's the pit after a week or so of processing. So the idea will be that I will move a lot of this soil back over the head of this and have sort of a sunken hugel bed. Sorry, I can't speak. And so kind of just bring it up to that grade there and kind of slope it down to over here. Okay, and here is some of the firewood we have chopped up. It will last us probably a decade worth of winters here. Okay, so here we are with my annual skid steer rental. There's the little guy there. So we're going to do some grading over here at this wasteland I've created. And grade that out, make it look a little nicer, bring a little extra topsoil in. Okay, here's the end of day one with the skid steer. So most of the piles have gone now. The pit is filled in. Got to berm it up a little bit more. I don't want a serious berm, just sort of a slight one, but kind of a little more slope going that way. But I should be able to pull enough soil from over there. I'm having some topsoil delivered as well, like 10 yards tomorrow, which should help with that. Okay, coming over here, we got our Sunken Hugel. It's looking pretty nice. It's probably gonna be its finished state. I doubt I'll add more soil there. I will add more topsoil over here to kind of bring up this depression a little bit, fill this in a bit, and also just give whatever I decide to plant here, give it a chance, because this is a pretty hard packed clay here. So I'll try planting something that can break up this soil, provide a little bit of nitrogen. And yeah, it came out pretty good. Okay, so here we are on day 3 of the project. See over here, I've got my perimeter for our little garden laid out. So the plan is to bring in a layer of topsoil and bring this up to 6 inches or so. So you see I've got cardboard over here to sort of suppress the grass that was growing there before. Unfortunately, I ran out. I used all the cardboard we had, so I had to use some of this burlap stuff, which is, considering how porous this is, it probably will not be that effective at weed suppression, but at least it'll break down, like using a landscape fabric or something. So yeah, the plan is bring in some topsoil, raise it up about 6 inches, and then I've got another load of garden soil coming in tomorrow, which I'll put on top of that. But before I do that, I'll lay out sort of a keyhole garden here. Okay, so we're on day 4 of the this little landscaping project. You can see we've got the garden perimeter in place. Little pathway through the center. Let's take a look at this. So I got this bolted down, well, staked down. I just drilled holes through these logs and put in some rebar to hold these logs in place. So yeah, keeps it pretty sturdy. But if I need to remove them again, it won't be that difficult. And coming around here. It took a little while to figure out yesterday. You know, these are our test logs, but this is the pathway going through here. This allows access to this side. This side over here, we'll put some stepping stones to get out over here. So we got 2 more loads of soil coming in today. So I'll put like a little top dressing on these sections and in the garden. All right, so here we are on day 5 of our little landscaping project. So mostly a cleanup day today. I've got a load of mulch coming in this afternoon to reestablish my pathways that got torn up by the skid steer. I just got finished cutting up this. This is an Arizona ash log into these rounds about 3 inches deep, and looks like they're almost 18 inches, 20 inches in diameter. I'm going to use these for some pathways in the garden. So yeah, just sort of clean up day to day with some little odds and ends, and then the earthworks will be finished. Okay, I've got the skid steer loaded up, ready to head home. Let's take a look at what we did this week. Here's my delivery area. It's kind of a muddy mess right now. I've got some mulch down here, but hopefully Chip Drop will come by with some more mulch to sort of fill in and make this where it's a little easier to get vehicles in here. Coming through here. Squishy. Okay, here's a terrace garden. So all in all, we brought in, it was 60 yards of soil and 10 yards of mulch. You can see it here. See, I raised this. It's usually a foot I added there. So there should be some nice garden space. It's gonna get some dapple shade initially. I might trim back some of these trees to open up the canopy a little bit, but I don't know, being in Texas, I think a lot of plants appreciate a little bit of shade. So there's a terrace garden. Coming over here, it's gonna be a little bit muddy over here because we got about 3/4 of an inch of rain yesterday. Still see some standing water over there. I'm not gonna walk out, but so there's the former pit is now a sunken hugel bed. So I've got about, I don't know, probably 4 to 5 feet of woody material in the pit, and then probably about I don't know, maybe 2 feet of soil on top of that. So as that wood breaks down, it should provide nutrients for the trees I plan to plant up here. And it will sort of absorb the rotten wood will absorb moisture and sort of act like a sponge, hold on to water, you know, watering the trees there. Along that fence line, I'm planning to print some screening stuff, probably some Yopon holly, maybe some loquat. And here in the valley, it's going to be really good garden space at some point, so that's south facing, there's east. So this gets really good morning sun and all the sun, pretty good sun up until about 2 p.m. You see, I've got a canopy right here which is perfect for Texas. So at some point this will be my garden space, but I only got about 6 inches of soil on top of really hard pan clay. So plan for this season is to plant some cowpeas out there. Those have big tap roots and should be able to break up the soil. And then maybe try to do a wildflower mix, maybe do some put some bluebonnet seeds down in November or the fall, and then hopefully have some wildflowers here next year. And eventually, yeah, make it into a garden space once I can bring irrigation in. But yeah, that was a big thing. So you can see all my piles of earth and soil out here are gone. That little pile there is just some leftover growing soil I had that I'll probably use when I plant trees over here to sort of top dress it. So yeah, it's really nice to have all those piles gone. And then coming over here, the last thing we did, like I said, we had 60 yards of soil delivered, which turned out to be too much for these two projects. So another thing that's been on the back burner for me was to actually plan out the living roof on the cottage. So I was doing the other things. I built this little retaining wall with some rubble we had down there in the down where the pit was. If you remember, there was a pretty ugly OSB right there you could see, and now it's covered up. And I think, yeah, I might do some planting on top of that. But the big thing is coming up here. We got a little video of this, but yeah, you can see we just had this wood mulch on top of here that was doing a good job breaking down, but we put a few inches of soil all over the roof, so hopefully I'll get some sedums and start planting those up here. So yeah, I'll go up there. It's pretty muddy, but that's it. So yeah, now I'm gonna go take the skid steer back, and I have to go get a bunch of plants, which is the fun part. Well, Earthworks is the fun part too. But to actually see stuff grow and not just see barren earth here is a whole lot more satisfying, I think. But